And you're very welcome to episode 6 of the Women's League of Ireland podcast here on FinalWhistle.ie with myself, Breifne Earley, and of course, as always, Aaron Clarke joins me to go through everything from last week's games, this week's fixtures. We'll be looking at there's no this week's fixtures apart from the international games, of course. We'll be chatting to Bohemians superstar Katie McCarn. She's really just broke into that first team since her move from Shells this year. We're going to be chatting about that goal and the other goal, two absolute worldies from her 2 weeks ago against Wexford. The first one, of course, went viral online. We'll be talking about another viral goal as well this week. Roisha Littlejohn, you may have heard of her, Aaron. She scored an absolute worldie, real opportunist goal direct from the kickoff. A rule change that maybe some people aren't that familiar with a handful of years back, but you can score direct from the kickoff. You couldn't do that of old, but you can now, and she just caught Galway keeper Nicole Nix a little bit off her line and maybe a little bit unawares, and great finish from her. That's, of course, gone viral, 150,000 views or something on Twitter this week. But we're seeing that more and more and more. I better welcome you to the show as well, Aaron. But we are seeing it more and more. How exciting has the start of the league been?
Do you know what? It's probably been my favourite start of the league season. And I actually tweeted that yesterday when the league table went up. It's probably been the most enjoyable start to a season. Like, you're talking about bangers. You never even mentioned Kate Thompson's goal against Bohs in the same end that Katie McCarn scored her goal in the week previous to that. And it's just been one after another. And do you know what? It's great to see. Will we still see some moments that maybe overshadow parts of games and stuff like that? The bangers are really, really hitting the socials. And I met a League of Ireland journalist actually on Saturday evening. I was coming back from the shop, and he said to me, as soon as he seen the goal, he said he contacted his publication to say, get that online. That's going to go viral. And,
absolutely. It was such a fantastic effort from Roisha at the weekend. But in terms of the league start to the season, I think compliment where it's due to the FAI and whoever is behind their highlights packages, because the speed they're getting them out at is so good. The content is so much better than it was last year. And I think that's the key for me, is because we're not just seeing kickoff goals and end results. And
can I criticize one thing on them?
Okay.
I would like to see the red cards included. And you said, you chatted separately. And because I actually missed the one from the Wexford game from Amber Hardy, and I actually had it was only that they showed a clip of her on the ground getting the red card that I was able to timestamp it and go back onto LOIWomen to actually look at it, because I'd missed it. But I'd love to see them just clear. They're on social media, most of them.
You got to pay for the good stuff. That's the thing, Aaron, right? But no, it's been phenomenal. I was really impressed this week. A new appearance, Emma Kate Deneen down in Treaty. Raw, but a really, really promising commentator, I think, down there. Great to hear a female voice on LOI TV as well, because we've heard female voices from time to time, and they haven't really been at the pace of it. I think given a couple more goals, I think she could really be a really good addition to the online commentary from that down there.
I was curious to see how it would work with her, because I've watched some of her social media stuff in terms of Treaty, and I know she does some work with the local radio stations down there. I was interested to see how it worked. You could definitely hear she was nervous at times, but to me, like, when's the last time, apart from Jessica Farry, that we've had a female commentator lead a women's game? I can't think of one where you've had a women's female commentator.
I think Athlone have had one or two, but I think they've been there more by accident than design. And I think, and that's been respectful to them. To be honest, they weren't great, if memory serves me. But
I enjoyed everything I heard from her at the weekend.
And she was on her own, which is even doubly hard, because for 90 minutes, 245, 46, 48 minutes, you don't get a break. So, fair play to her, and more of it. I'd love to see more teams identifying the people in the back of the club who can come forward and take those roles and really mean it. Because even I've heard commentators who do both men's and women's, and I've spoken to them about it, and I know they go all out for research for the men, and then they just show up for the women, and it kind of comes through in some of the games. So it was really good to see someone who knew the players, was able to give you a bit of background, and was able to keep up with the play as well. I'm sure she was delighted with the final result as well down there. Maybe let's start down there in Treaty. Of course, they had a fine start to the season. They've been going really, really well. Came into the weekend in a really, really fine position with that Munster derby against Cork City would have been expected on form. I know we spoke to Isabella Flacchini last week, and we kind of talked to her, and the vibe was that they felt they could go out and win that. They made hard work of it, but they did deserve the 3 points in the end, Aaron.
Yeah, but they probably should have even been ahead earlier. Bella Flacchini, the chance she missed when she's through on goal as well. They're the sort of efforts that need to be put away. I know we're going to talk about the first goal. Aaron Hoey from Cork City's put up a view from the other side. A lot of calls. It's offside. It's onside. You haven't fully made your. You haven't fully made your mind. I think it's offside.
I would probably fall on that side if I had to. If the gun was to my head. But from two different angles, it looks very, very different. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, and you can see it from the first angle, the main LOI TV shot, the linesman is directly in line with it. So the only suspicion I have is that there's a nick of a head as that ball came in, and I feel that we missed it in the original thing, and I reckon she's offside, but the ref or the linesman has not seen that touch. And she's offside when that touch happens, but not before. So I think this conversation, there was a lengthy conversation with the referee, and I just feel maybe they missed that header, which then reactivates the offside decision. And I feel they probably got it wrong. But at the same time, how cool was Mara McCleary for that goal? It was great finish from a centre half.
And then she goes from hero to villain.
Her game finished a couple of minutes later. It wasn't great for her. Sent off. Was it a red card for her? She pulls her back. She's the last man. It's probably a red card. Probably very little complaint about it, really.
Yeah, I don't think you can have very much complaint about it. The only thing I would say, and I'm gonna sort of deflect away from this game a little bit just for saying this, the amount of red cards we've seen this season.
Yeah, last weekend was crazy.
It's a lot higher. The weekend before, even red cards, and it just seems to be a lot more constant in the league. We're getting more.
Is that a good thing in some ways? It's never a good thing to have a red card, but in terms of the league as a whole, I think there's always been a bit of an unwritten rule with referees in the women's game that you don't give a red card if you can avoid it. And now we're seeing maybe players, no more than we criticize players from time to time, whereas a couple of years ago we might have not highlighted defensive mistakes, focused on the positives. This season, I feel we've been a bit more honest in terms of that was a shocking defensive mistake that gave that opportunity. And I feel the girls themselves respect that more, because it's you're not getting treated like a second-class citizen or a lesser player and, we'll go easy on them. They're getting the full letter of the law this year. And I think that's a positive in the grand scheme of things for the league, and that it's getting more competitive. There's more in games, and the challenges are needed, and the cards are issued as required. There's Noelle Murray, who just, you think at this stage she learned to maybe just quieten down a little bit. But
I'm not going to speak on Noelle's red card. I'll keep that till we get to the Shells game. But for me, I think we're seeing a lot more of it. And you know what? Majority of the red cards we've seen this season have probably been warranted.
Well, I think, again, we'll talk about it more in the Sligo Wexford game, but Amber Hardy, there was no choice for their referee but to send her off in that game. And the same for Mara. I think those players probably deserve the red card they got because of what they did on the pitch. And
likewise, Chloe McCarthy's red card for DLR against Treaty couldn't do anything. The referee was given a decision from Noelle Murray in that one, and after booking her previously, probably shouldn't have made the tackle. And we'll talk about them a little bit more.
We're probably going to give out about referees a little bit more in the rest of this show, because there's a couple of talking points that we probably want to chat about as we go.
Even before, there was something I picked up on the Treaty game, even before the red card. We're talking about Bella Flacchini should score, make a 1-0 when she doesn't. Katie Lawley at 1-0 as well. Another superb chance, has to score that. If they go 2-0 up, maybe does the red card happen? Do they sort of give up? Do they sort of, I would just say, not necessarily make that challenge? And then even after the free kick directly from the red card, it's a bad miss from Cork City. You can't be putting that over from that close range. For me, it has to be hitting the net.
The last half hour of the game, though, was absolute box office for me, because I watched the game in full and live on Saturday afternoon here, and I have to say, down to 10 players, Treaty never looked like they panicked. And for me, we've talked about some of the attacking players, Madison McGann, Isabel Ficini, and a few others that have really impressed. Gillian O'Toole that have impressed at the top end for Treaty. But for me, one of the best players they've got this season is actually the left back, Ikeza, and twice we've seen her now. First against DLR on the opening day of the season, but she pulled off a fantastic little move. First of all, she won the ball in midfield, played it back to centre half, made a run down the wing, cut back inside, and an inch perfect pass to Flacchini, who, despite a bit of pressure from the keeper, from Unifoil, she won that kind of tussle. Ball popped loose and she stroked it home. It was absolutely fantastic from her.
I want to ask you because I couldn't see who made the pass. That pass.
Yeah.
The one thing I know, the one thing I wrote on my notes is I just wrote, "What a pass!" That's all I wrote on the note for the goal. I was like, it was absolutely superb.
Yeah, top notch. But we've seen it time and time again. Perfect weight, perfect placement, and she's going to be a find for Treaty as well this year.
Outside of the boot as well.
Yeah. The header from Senna before that ball and that goal, Senna had equalised. Great deep free kick. Senna gets her head on it. Really gives the keeper little to no chance. Toomey has no chance. Yes.
Should she get free at the back post?
No, she shouldn't. But I think given the ball in, I think she just reacted quicker to it. She was expecting it. Treaty weren't awake to it. Cork did get level again though. 15 minutes from time. Not quite as cleanly, but a corner comes in and ball ends up at the back of the net. Last touch is given to Heidi O'Sullivan. Sub came on for them. So level going in. Cork would have been happy with a point going back down the road to Cork, but Madison McGann hadn't read the script. What a finish from her. She's been really, really impressive this season as well.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And the way she finished that, like, for such a young player, so inexperienced as well, took it very, very well.
Yeah, your dog completely agrees with that as well. Full marks for Madison McGann on that. We'll move away from the Treaty game. We might stay out in the West Coast, though. We'll go to Galway and Shamrock Rovers. This had everything. It had that fantastic effort from Ruisha Littlejohn. What can you say about that goal? Let's start there. Galway had been ahead twice in the game, and this was Shamrock Rovers' opportunity to get the ball back, and nobody saw it coming. But Ruisha, just a little bit of experience, a little bit of guile, and a decent execution as well.
Yeah, and I was just been thinking about this. I've only ever seen one women's player do it before, and I don't think you'll know who it was. It was in a WSL game, Arsenal against Arsenal and Reading.
No, I had no idea.
Farrah Williams done it for Reading against Arsenal. I've only ever seen it being done once. Like, you were looking, the breeze is definitely in her favour. It's an opportunist moment from her. She just looks up. I'm looking at the video, and I've looked at it a few times. When it comes back into camera, Nicole Nix isn't that far off her line, and like, no, listen, Nix will be very disappointed with this, right? And it's one of them freak moments. But the fact that Nix isn't out at the 18-yard box sort of means the placement from Ruisha has to be.
If it's a foot further, it's over the bar. If it's a foot less, I think Nix gets a hand on it, and it was absolute precision. I think that's why it's so good. Let's rewind to the start of the game, though. Rovers came out of the blocks really, really well. The through ball, Emma Doherty did really well to just nip in. I think it might have been ahead of Maria Reynolds just to get a touch. Ends up at the feet of Abby Callanan, but Katie Keane had come out. The touch kind of left Callanan almost with an empty net, just from the angle she was at, and she just managed to push it past the keeper. Not one that's going to make a highlight reel, but 1-0 up after 3 minutes against Rovers.
2 questions on this.
Okay.
First, to me, and this is where I'd like your opinion, was it a little bit of a hopeless ball forward against the breeze, just push it forward? And then secondly, should Katie Keane be coming out there?
Answer to both of them is a yes and a no. It was a hopeless ball forward, but it was the touch from Doherty that made the opportunity. I don't think anyone expected Doherty to get there. She shouldn't have got there. The defender should have came and cleaned her and ball and everything. Doherty's little touch just pushed it wide to Callanan. Even just that extra meter or two to the right-hand side, give her that angle. Katie Keane stranded completely at that point. She does redeem herself with a penalty save. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
forget the penalty save. There's a great save before that when Emma Doherty's through on goal. One-on-one with goal straight after. Like, Emma Doherty has to hit the net there.
But Emma Doherty, I disagree. I think Emma Doherty has to pass there because Abby Callanan, again, wide on the right. We'll talk about it later in the Waterford game. Olivia Shannon through on goal. She's got a player to her left, and she just plays a small square ball, and it's a tap in. We see it with Elle Malloy. She sets up Charlotte Cormack in the Wexford game. So I think Emily Corbett, if that happens later in the game, Corbett already on the score sheet, I think she squares that ball. I think the fact that Emily has had a poor enough run. Sorry, Emma Doherty has had a poor enough run over the last couple of games where she hasn't really found the net with kind of regularity in Galway, probably over the last season, let's be honest, not as much as we would have expected her to.
But she's the sort of person that I said to you at the start of the season, if they're to have a really good season, a lot of things are going to have to go well for her.
Yeah, absolutely. Now she does cap off the game with the winner, so you can't knock her either. I think she's probably one of the best talents in the league, but I do think she should have squared that ball, and I think it's an automatic goal for Caroline, and it puts them 2-0 up, and it changes the nature of the entire game. How good was Corbett's instinct? Poor clearance from Dawson, ends up being pushed out to the right hand side, and like Corbett does not need to be asked twice to finish that.
No, absolutely doesn't need to be asked twice. Keeper gets a hand to it. Just probably too much power to knock it 2 hands, I think. But good to see Emily Corbett sort of getting that run of goals. I think if Rovers are to really push up the table and be a title contender, Corbett's going to have to do what she done with Athlone a couple of years ago and score a bucket of goals. The only thing I will say is, while they have a great front three in Rovers, you just hope maybe they don't focus too much on constantly interchanging. And I think when Emily Corbett's through the middle, Emily Corbett is dangerous, and we've seen that. But even when Galway retook the lead, the one question I have is, how is Niamh Farrelly so high up the field? She takes the goal very well, but you don't tend to see Niamh Farrelly that high up.
Lovely play, ball comes into Callanan and finds Keola Bergen, and a lovely little touch. Farrelly's touch takes it past the defender, and she just toe pokes it through Keane's legs, I think, as she came out. Very little anyone really could have done about that from a Rovers point of view. Sometimes you just got to put your hand up and say it was just too good.
You know what's interesting? And I'm just looking at the team here for Galway. Ali Collins, a name who sort of we've seen a lot of, we heard a lot of because of what she done a couple of years ago when Galway denied Peamount the league title with that finish in PRL Park. Played 8 minutes against DLR on the opening day of the season, didn't play against Bohs, comes in fresh, raring to go, and just hits the ground running. I really, really like her as a footballer. I think she's a smashing footballer. And I think for Galway, I'd love to see her get a run of games, especially when you look at Aisling Meany not involved with them on Saturday. She come in and you wouldn't have really noticed that Meany was missing.
Yeah, and Lindsay McKee missing as well for a treaty. She was on the bench the first game, unused, hasn't featured since in the matchday squad. So they're missing 2 players with a lot of experience, and she's come in and really filled that gap, probably more than I expected her to. I was impressed with her at the weekend, really, really impressed with her, and I think she could really contribute to that side. But it shows.
You look at just on McKee. McKee's last appearance for them is 45 minutes against Sligo Rovers in August. And that's due to she's had niggles and injuries since then. Like, she's been on the bench a couple of times, but hasn't necessarily been involved. And I think the Galway of last year would have felt that an awful lot more than the Galway this year. I think they've got the players to replace her.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the penalty. Ball came in, Galway player gets a touch on it, appears to come off the Rovers player. Very hard to tell from the video. Ref is much closer, gives the penalty. Your thoughts on the penalty decision?
I don't know. It's the honest answer. I would like to see if there was an angle from closer up or in to see exactly, but he must have seen something, or the Lions person must have seen something to actually give it.
I think it might have
been. But in terms of the actual penalty itself, it's a great save from Katie McCarn. It's a great save.
Oh, fantastic save! Absolutely fantastic save. Can't fault that at all. It was Kate O'Brien was the referee, female referee in that one. But
do you know what? I actually Kate O'Brien's had some. She's got some criticism on me before, but I think she's been okay. I think she's been okay lately. Anytime I've watched her, yeah, it's one of them that she's obviously seen something to give it. But as we say, great save. But I don't think Katie McCarn's going to want to see back the follow the header, and it's a bit of a. As we go on through the show, it's going to be a bit of a talking point in terms of keepers getting hands on efforts and not being able to keep them out of net. I think she'd be disappointed.
Yeah, no, it's not one she's going to want to watch back. Overall, though, Galway Shamrock Rovers, we kind of, based on where we've been for the last week or two, or the last couple of conversations we've had on this show, two title prospects. An early indicator, if the rest of the season with all the title challengers, it throws up clashes like this, it's going to be really, really impressive.
Yeah, I still think Rovers have a bit to do. Still think they probably lack a bit of experience. For me, Galway are going to be thereabouts. I think they'll push right away. But to me, I'm going to say something now, and I'm going to go back to Phil Trill's comments from last week. I think Phil Trill's comments about Peamount, if they don't go and win this game, a lot of people would have been talking about them comments if they don't go and back that performance up. And I think that was really important that they backed that performance up and they got the win. Interesting enough, Collie O'Neill started saying after the game he thinks he set his team up slightly wrong for these sort of conditions.
In what way?
Just because it wasn't necessarily the sort of Shamrock Rovers the way they have been playing football, and it was more of a fight more than an out-and-out football game. And I get it, the conditions, the blustery, and you're not always going to get that with Galway, where you're not going to get a champagne football game, but they're going to work hard. They're going to sort of drive, and they're going to be dogged and determined throughout the entire game. And I think Shamrock Rovers will walk away from this one thinking, bit disappointed we didn't get something out of that, but I think Galway probably did shade in the end.
Shells and Peas would normally be a title decider in any season over the last 10 or 15 years in the league. Probably not so much this year, given the way that the season has started off, particularly for Peamount. But big game in Talca Park at the weekend, decided by arguably a dodgy enough decision on that penalty. Yes, she has her by the hand, but it's very difficult to see how you pull a player back and she falls forward. In my opinion, I think Rebecca Cook, that is, kind of sold it a little bit to the referee, got the penalty, and to be honest, Kate Mooney very lucky to see the ball hit the back of the net because, again, Budden got a hand to it.
So before I talk about the penalty, there was another one a few moments earlier where there was a couple of times when Cook come on, she went down a little bit too easy. Once or twice got the decision. To me, you can't give that penalty in that sort of situation. To me, there's not enough in it. And I spoke to Karen Duggan after the game and she was quite livid. I think realistically, Shells didn't deserve to win the game. And that's being honest. I thought Peamount in the first half in particular, I thought the Peamount midfield were very good to sort of negate a lot of Shells. Shells having to sort of work without Roman McLaughlin. Alex Kavanagh wasn't fit enough to start the game. Come on for the last 15. Made a big difference for them, no doubt about it. But the chances were limited in the game. And apart from Amanda Budden really pushing the ball onto the crossbar, there wasn't an awful lot that really cleared chances. Let's
talk about that particular opportunity because that was a great save from Budden. But about 30 seconds earlier in the build-up to that, Peamount were on the attack. There was absolute blatant push in the back. I've never seen anything as blatant in my life. I think it was Rachel Graham on Antia Guevo. Just shoves her over right in front of the referee, then collects the ball and sends it out in the right wing. And Shells create that opportunity, I think, with the second attempt to force that onto the crossbar. But that was a free all day to Peamount. And I felt the referee gave Shells every 50-50 decision on Saturday, and they still had a player sent off. And probably lucky maybe not to have a second. Kate Mooney, just before Murray got booked for the first time, Mooney was very lucky with a challenge not to be booked. I feel she could have really had no argument had she picked up a second yellow for just a clumsy challenge. There was no malice in it, but it was just a clumsy challenge. She gets away with it. There's a war of words between Murray and Kate Mooney.
Let me, before I even go there with the Murray war of words, if you're actually watching the game live, there's a war of words before that, the war of words, in the sense of Sive Doyle takes down Rebecca Cook over the far touchline, and Cook is sort of gesturing like that for a yellow card, and the referee gives her the yellow card.
Okay.
And then Noelle has a pop at him there.
Yeah.
Doesn't book her here. Sort of has a quick word with her, and then it was only the next foul. She says, "Okay, but where's your card here?" And sort of has another. He doesn't book her the first time. Sort of has a word with her. Then he tells her at that stage, "Listen, keep it up. You'll go to the dressing rooms."
But
then
they have they have a 15 or 20-second, maybe longer conversation, just the two of them in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
Then they're parting ways. Unless we know Noelle of 2 decades, we know Noelle playing this game. She has a habit of maybe saying something when maybe she shouldn't. And the referee heard something, books her, and then a clumsy challenge 5 minutes later, and she sees red. She's going to
not be going in for that tackle. If you were
No.
a yellow card that late, you should not be going in for that tackle. And like I even said to Noelle as she was coming off the pitch, I said, the problem here is you gave him the opportunity to just turn around, give you the second yellow card because you had spoke to him. Yeah. I said, if you don't get that first yellow card for speaking to him, he probably doesn't give you the yellow card in that situation.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with you. And I think I don't know. I just think we've seen it every year. We have one situation with Noelle where she just says something, gets sent to him. We don't need to tell her this. It's probably not even like she knows this. Do you know what I mean? This is not news to anybody who follows the league. But you would expect a player of her stature and her experience and her quality, because if she's available, she's on your team sheet every day, every game.
Misses the Bohs game Saturday week.
And that's the problem. You know, like getting sent off in the 90th minute, fine. It doesn't affect that game. You've won it. You got 3 points in the bag, but it's the next game, or potentially more if you get a bigger ban. I don't think she will. It's 2 yellow cards. She'll just get the 1 game. But yeah, that's probably the only disappointing thing about this game. Not one for the purists. Very, very little in terms of actual realistic chances.
No, it wasn't great in terms of chances.
I was impressed, though, by, we mentioned earlier in that foul by Rachel Graham, but Antia Guovo, I haven't seen much of her in the last few seasons. She's been on team sheet. She's been on the bench for Piedmont, but I was actually impressed.
She was with Athlone. She was with Bohs second half of last season. Was with Athlone the start of last season. Interesting enough, has been called up to the Croatian national team.
Yep. But that's a huge thing, and we're seeing players now from other countries coming in. It'd be interesting to see how she gets on, but now that I've actually seen her get a couple of games, I'm actually quite impressed with her. I think she's tall. She's got a bit of power. She can make things happen. You know, had an opportunity, kind of fluffed it a little bit in the first half. But overall,
the one thing I will say though is Piedmont cannot afford to miss Freya Healy, Ellen Dolan in these sort of games. The Piedmont of now can't afford to miss them sort of players. I actually spoke to the Piedmont team. I won't name who I spoke to prior to the game. I spoke to someone in the management ticket about what happened last weekend, just to get a little bit more context from our side. And as you had commented on the show last week, it was just a deluge. Like it was that bad that the road into Piedmont, if you're coming from Lucan, was half flooded, and the officials couldn't even go through the tunnel to inspect the pitch. They had to walk around over across the fairway and in the other gate. It was that bad. Now, I did ask the question about the under-17s game being on it, and what was said to me is the 17s game didn't ruin the pitch. It was just a deluge. It was just a deluge of rain, and they understand where the whole situation in terms of the outroy over the 17s game. They understand that, but it wasn't. It didn't ruin the pitch. It was just that deluge. And like even when we're going to talk now in a minute about probably I don't know what order you have it, but Waterford and the rain in Waterford.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just one of them that it just came and it just when it poured, it rained. And when it rained, it poured.
Let's go to Waterford actually, because they've been on a fine run of form. 2 wins now with their victory over DLR Waves at the weekend. Another cracking game because this game ended 4-2 to Waterford. 600 odd people at the match, which it's just over half what was there the first day, but that's not bad to be honest for a brand new team.
Gary Hunt have ever dreamed of having 6 points on the board after the first 4 games?
No, I don't think so. I think they'll be delighted with themselves. And I spoke about her last week. She was player of the game on TV the week before, Lauren Walsh. 2 goals from her. First one was a great header. Second one was probably a little bit more scrappy in terms of how that game went in. That's one that the DLR defense and Eve Badana will not want to watch again. It was funny. It's comical almost looking at it for the second goal. But Lauren Walsh again.
I thought the first goal for me, like when it goes straight at Bandana and she sort of pushes it into that corner where Michelle Doonan is standing on the line.
Back off the defender. So when Badana makes the save, does she push it onto the defender who ends up in the back of the net? I couldn't quite make it out from the replays on LOI TV. But
it didn't look like it for me. It didn't look like it, but then like you talk about the second goal. How that ball gets into the net?
Yeah.
I was like, I've never seen anything like it. Yes, you see scrambling the ball. But there's nearly a couple of players on the deck at that stage, sort of.
I think Eve Banana can't get at it because as one of her own players is kind of under her when she's trying to get on it.
No, just answer the question. The first goal, no, I just think Eve Bandana sort of parries it a bit to her left.
I'm not sure. I think it goes back in off the defender. But anyway, I'm sure we might find that out in due course. Let's talk about that equaliser first of all, because DLR were back on level terms twice. The first one, a bit similar to Waterford's second goal. Corner comes in. It's a little bit all over the place, but the ball bounces nicely and falls at the foot of Rachel Doyle. And that's a great finish. Okay, it's through a crowd of bodies. I don't know how much Maeve Williams knew about it, but it's a great finish into the far bottom corner from Doyle. Exactly what you'd look for from an attacking player in that sense. Just make no mistake and bury it.
She shouldn't be getting it through that corner. That's the interesting thing. She shouldn't be getting anywhere near through that gap. And I think, do you know what? I'm delighted for Rachel Doyle. I like Rachel. I've always got on well with Rachel. I like the family are great. And like it's one of them that it's a nice finish from her. But if you're DLR after equalising there, you're probably going to think, right, start the second half. Let's kick on. Let's get back into this game and let's sort of see, can we push on? Can we get a result? That was bang on just on half time.
Yeah.
And the third goal, just 2 minutes before the hour. The second goal, 2 minutes before the hour. I think the one thing I took note of from DLR is defending this season has been poor for them. Like they missing Chloe McCarthy again. And then you can't obviously miss Jess Gleason in these sort of games. Naming Agassi come off the bench, how fit is she? These are three players who you'd expect in your team week in, week out. And from a Waterford viewpoint, from a DLR viewpoint, they can't afford to miss these players. No more than we talk about the likes of Sligo. We talk about the likes of Waterford in the big games. They have to have their entire 11 if they're going to be competitive in games.
Let's talk about the penalty, because I've been bigging up Lauren Walsh all season. I think defensively she's one of the best performances I've seen this year. Definitely a penalty, though, all the same. It was a poor slice.
Yeah, but I'd also say the clearance
didn't help.
In the build-up to the penalty. The clearance in the build-up to the penalty, to me, is what really has caused it. And I don't really want to say it, but Atkinson probably won't want to see that one back with the slice clearance.
The penalty was impressive. The penalty was very impressive. Great strike there from Cosgrove. She found the bottom corner. And
that's Cosgrove's second penalty this season. There's already been 4 penalties there's been 4 penalties in 2 games in the RSC.
Yeah, Maeve Williams just saved half of them. Didn't quite get to keep the ball out. Got a hand to it, I think, or got right down.
She went the right way, and you can see if you watch the video, she's actually quite fuming that she doesn't keep it out. And do you know what? I think Maeve Williams. We're going to talk an awful lot about the positive side of Maeve Williams this year. I'm happy to see her back playing regular football, because no disrespect to Wexford, but she was too good to be sitting on the bench in Wexford. She had to go and make the move. No more than when we speak to Katie McCarn later, that she'll say the same thing.
Yeah, and then of course enter Erin O'Brien. She comes on with 19 minutes left on the clock, game tied up. She probably didn't expect to have the impact that she did when she came on, but she scored 2 goals. The first of them, like I mentioned earlier, was set up for her basically by Olivia Shannon, who scored 2 in Sligo last week. Shannon broke through and had her inside her and just pushed the ball to the left. And
we have to talk about
the last goal.
O'Brien's first touch. No, O'Brien's first touch for that goal.
Oh yes,
I thought she was gonna take it away. But how they get through? Like it's a ball forward. It's just flicked around the corner, and then Olivia Shannon and herself get through. And it's like likewise with the last goal. It's
there's a bit of an offside call there, I think, as well. I think she's on, but it's a dangerous one.
The pass across, no, she's definitely onside. I don't think the camera angle just does the justice. She's definitely onside. Don't go there. I'm not giving you that one.
I think she's just behind the ball, but I think that Shannon just takes that pause for a second, and she nearly strayed ahead of her. It would have been an absolute shocker to give away the possession at that point. But the fourth goal, the sealer, and boy, did she enjoy it if you look at the celebrations. She intercepts a loose pass back from midfield, touches a pass to the defender, and there's no catching her. The absolute afterburners on her. She leaves the DLR defense for absolute dead and just strokes the ball past Badana. Gave her really no chance. Decent strike. She'll be happy. She looked happy anyway.
Absolutely. Of course she'll be happy. You have to win the game 4-2. A lot of people would have said it's the sort of game where maybe treating that Waterford try to get the reality check that the teams above them are better, and both value very good credit for the win. What I liked most is the fact that when they were pipped back twice, they still found a way to win the game. Interesting enough, both Gary Hunt and Laura Heffernan would have been on the same management ticket at Wexford Youths.
Yeah, interesting times. Let's move on to another game, and we will go to Sligo Bohs. No, Sligo Wexford. We'll go there. We're going to finish with Athlone Bohs. Sligo Wexford. This for me, I know we've kind of probably been almost aggressively pessimistic about Sligo's chances this year, but 5-1 in the end. Keeper sent off. And it was an absolute blatant red. She comes out, makes no attempt to challenge, just comes in and just flattens her. Amber Hardy definitely deserved the red, but it kind of just summed up Sligo's day. It just wasn't happening for them.
Yeah, like even before the first goal, you can see they're going with Steve Feeney's not happy with the decision there's a chance early on where Ella Malloy nicks the ball. Yeah. She nicks the ball again for the first goal
right,
as well.
He's right on that. Malloy, she blatantly handles the ball. Ref probably a little unsighted. Blatant handball, but the linesman should.
It's more they were caught in defence twice. That was a warning sign. Granted, she hit it wide. It wasn't given as offside. Then the second one she caught. Like the one thing I notice is when Wexford play well, Ellen plays well.
Yeah.
Ellen, the game flowed through Ellen for me. I know you sort of said about offsides and stuff like that, but we talked about the Kylie goal.
Kylie Murphy's blatantly offside for her goal, but again, it wasn't given.
It's not a shot. It's never a shot.
No, it's a cross. Absolutely, it's a cross, and ends up in the far corner. She'll take it though. The first goal, let's talk about it because it's Charlotte Cromack, who we mentioned in the preview of the season when we looked at the ins and outs. Her brother Henry's playing with the men down there in Wexford. Has seemed to have made a really good impact there. He's a striker as well. She looked a little raw when she came on in the first game of the season, but I was very impressed with some of the touches in and around her performance on Saturday afternoon. She took her goal well, but couldn't miss. Like Ellen Malloy just laid it on a plate for her, and I think that was really unselfish of Ellen when she had a chance to go herself to just take the guaranteed goal and give it to Cromack, who's only 17, to kind of come on and actually make that. So she scored first. Kylie Murphy's offside cross come shot ends up in the back of the net. That's 2-0, and then about half an hour from the end, Sligo kind of came back in. Mairead McIntyre with a really good effort. It's a long ball. It's a bit hit and hope, no more than the Galway one earlier on. But she finishes it very well to the bottom corner. And Sligo actually looked like they might come into the game at that stage, but then enter Ella Malloy.
You cannot, before you even say enter Ella Malloy, you cannot concede so quick after getting back into that game. If Sligo could have held out for a couple of minutes more, maybe they might have got back into it. But yeah, build up from that. Build up for the finish was superb, and the finish is superb. I think Ellen she's on top form. A little bit surprised, probably, if I'm being honest, that she wasn't in the Ireland squad for me. Ellen is just Ellen. I think it's great to see her back fit. Granted, Sheffield United didn't work out the way she would have wanted, but Sheffield United's loss is definitely Wexford. It's definitely Wexford's gain. Thoughts on the fourth goal?
Well, it came after the red card, so Amber Hardy came out, took out the girl who was coming through.
Aoife Kelly.
Aoife Kelly got sent off, and then free. Ellen did something a bit strange. She kind of went low, kind of came off the wall, bounced behind the wall, and then Della just was first to react and punched it home like a
little bit unlucky from Sligo Rovers. You point in the sense of the way it come off the wall.
Yeah, maybe unfortunate, but probably on the basis of play, probably deserved for Wexford as well.
The red card at that stage is a tired bodies from Sligo in the sense of and I think the gap was just massive there where Aoife Kelly got into.
Yeah, and I think the fifth goal is even worse from a switch-off point of view from Sligo. For anyone who's watched the highlights or watched the game live, there's a ball down the left-hand side. Kiva Flynn should have got there all day, every day. She had about 2 or 3 yard head start on her. Seemed like she was carrying a knock and couldn't quite move freely. And I can't remember who it was got down the left-hand side. It might have been Malloy, actually, down the left-hand side, crossed the ball in, and the central defenders had switched off. They thought the ball was going wide. Wexford attacker got there, squared it, and Aoife Kelly just came onto it, and she was under pressure from both behind her. I think the keeper, Bonnie McKernan, the sub-keeper, was out on her, and also Kate Nugent was coming from behind her, and Kelly just got a touch, and it ended up in the back of the net. Good finish under pressure from Kelly, but like 5-1, and based on how the game finished, probably the deserved, worryingly for Sligo, probably a deserved result. They're going to need to improve if they're going to be finishing outside the bottom 2 or maybe even the bottom 1 this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree with it. I think,
and the sending off had no impact. 10 minutes to go.
The only impact the sending off probably had was it probably took the last milli bits of energy out of the players. But that's about it. I don't think the result was ever in doubt even before the sending off. But like your choice there in Amber Hardy is you either just go to the ground to try and dive at the edge of your box and try and make her go around you, or you foul her. And it was one of them that it was.
Yeah, if Hardy slows down, you make Kelly make a decision. And if he goes by you, takes a poor touch, you have a chance of recovering because there was defenders coming after her. If she takes a poor touch, you're fine. If she does what Madison McGrath did and just takes it around you and puts it home, there's very little you can do about that. But yeah, Wexford, good results. They'll be happy. Disappointment for Sligo, though. They're going to be absolutely gutted and picking up the pieces after the weekend. Let's move on. Last game of the weekend, Athlone versus Bohemians. First, let's talk about Bohs' kit. It looks like a wibbly wobbly wonder. So for those who are too young to remember that, it's an ice cream from the 80s and 90s, and it's orange on one side and pink on the other. I quite like the jersey, apart from the numbers. Could not identify who anybody was on the stream at all. Disaster to see the white numbers on it.
Poor commentators were having a bad day as well, trying to identify who's what. And I was like, yeah, I fully agree. I can't see it. It's Bohs all over, in the sense of the type of jersey, the way the jersey is, the pink and orange. Some people will like it, some people won't like it. It'll take a bit of time. It'll grow on me. I'm not against it. But just the numbers should be black to at least give us a bit of. In terms of the football itself, first goal, I think Bohs, when you look at it, when she gets free on the right hand side, and then there's 3 Bohs players trying to get back on the line, and Lisa Murphy gets the best of it. I just think
it's a great ball and great vision from Kelly Brady to pick out Isabel Ryan wide on the right. Ryan's finish not phenomenal, but enough to get a trickle across the line and open the score for Bohs.
So that's the word I was looking for. Nearly trickled across the line.
Yeah. And 10 minutes later, though, Bohs nearly got back in the game because the Athlone keeper went down to make a save, and I don't quite know what happened, but the ball just bounced up. And luckily, it didn't go behind her. It just went straight up and straight back down into her arms. That could have been an embarrassing one for the goalkeeper from Athlone, because I wouldn't like to have been her had that gone in over the line. And then a few minutes later, about half an hour into the game, we see Ava Brennan, who's been impressive, another exciting youngster from Bohs. We've talked about her plenty on the show as well. But she has an effort. Kelly has to save. She wins the ball in midfield and then subsequently loses it, and it turns into an Athlone attack. And luckily, Rachel Kelly saves them. And then it was 15 minutes from the end. Just again, Athlone, another relatively scrappy goal, bit of poor defending from Bohs, and Shauna Carroll just couldn't quite clear it, and Aoife O'Connor just threw a crowd of people just finds the bottom corner.
I'd say this to you now. You look at most of the goals that have happened this year in Athlone Town, especially the 2 against Cork City as well. Both scrappy, both come from the corner. Athlone won't care. 10 points out of a possible 12, 4 wins, they'll be really happy. My disappointment thing is that Bohs just didn't back that performance up the week before. They weren't great going forward, considering how good they were going forward against Wexford.
Yeah, well, speaking of that game against Wexford, one of the stars of that game was Katie McCarn. We did promise an interview with her at the top of the show. We caught up with her just before we recorded this. Here's what she had to say. Katie McCarn of Bohemians. It's been a great start to the season, and we're delighted to have you on the show. You're very welcome.
Thanks for having me, yeah.
It's been a blistering start for Bohemians, I suppose, in terms of performances. Maybe the results haven't quite matched what you've put out on the pitch over the last few days, but everything's fairly promising at the moment in Dalymount. How are you enjoying your start to the season? And we're going to be talking about that goal, but overall, how has the start of the season been for you?
Yeah, I think personally, I've had a good start. I've got loads of minutes in me, so that's what I came to Bohs for, was minutes, and that's what I'm getting, so I'm delighted with that. And obviously the 2 goals then I was delighted to get. It's just to kickstart the season, and I think as a team we mightn't have got the results that we deserve sometimes, but we have a lot of potential, and it's a long season ahead. So
without getting into the move, because we will ask about the move in a short bit, what's it been like though playing regular senior football? Because the last couple of years you've started being limited to mainly appearances off the bench. What's it like sort of playing week in, week out and being one of them players that are standing up to be counted for Bohs?
Yeah, I think it's completely different. It gives you a bit more confidence in yourself and playing. If you weren't playing as much, you might feel down, but I think when you're playing week in, week out, and your fitness gets better, and just you're getting more experience in the league, which is what you need to get better. And it's been great so far.
I want to talk to you about your pretty stellar underage career at Shells, but before we get into all of that, let's talk about that goal. And there was 2 goals against in the game 2 weeks ago. I can't remember who it was against. It was Wexford in Dalymount, and the second one would have been nominated for goal of the month on its own, but it wasn't even your best goal of the game. Let's talk about the first one, because you intercept a free kick, bit of a sloppy free kick from them, but you're on it like you wouldn't believe. You pick up the ball well inside your own half and you just went at them and let fire from about 35 yards. I don't think you're ever going to strike a ball as sweet again in your life. Could it have gone better for you?
No, I don't think it could have gone better. I think, that's something you only write, really, and I just seen my opportunity and I just thought I'd run and go for it, and I'm glad it worked out because it was a really good goal in the end. So
what are you thinking though when you see Becky Casson play that loose pass across, and the right full Grace Fitzpatrick Ryan sort of, or was it Tegan Lynch, not really fully up to speed or paying attention when that ball comes across to you?
Yeah, I just seen it trickling over, really, and it was just one of them ones I wasn't sure if I was close enough to get it, but then I just thought I'd go for it, and I just nicked it ahead of her, and then I just went for a run, and gladly I took it inside then and took my shot.
What's going through your mind though when you get that touch, first of all, and all you can see is maybe the keeper in the far distance and maybe only one defender between you and her? Are you thinking goal straight away, or did it just kind of happen as it materialized?
Well, I think Katie Malone and Macca were following up behind me, but I think if I had in my head, if I was to go any slower or hold it up, their defence would have just got back. So I just thought I'd take my shot and see what happens.
Where does the confidence come from? Because you're somebody, like, if you look at the last couple of years, like Breifne said, you had a stellar underage career, but in terms of League of Ireland minutes, your League of Ireland minutes have been extremely limited. Like last season, Michelle's, you had 79 minutes over four games, but to have the confidence to say, I'm going for this, like, where does that come from?
I don't know. I think just in pre-season, I was just, as I was playing more and more, I just built my confidence up in myself, and obviously the girls as well. Rach especially, she is really good for helping you build up your confidence, off the pitch as well, and she really just motivates you to get going, before the game. She really gets everyone going in the right mind space to go and do the best we can.
Without getting you to fall out with anybody, I was looking through your kind of record underage, and I think it's something like 21 goals and 21 appearances at under 19 and under 17 level over the last 2 seasons. Is that, you talked about lack of minutes, and I suppose you were on the bench for all the games in the cup last year, weren't in the squad, matchday squad for the cup final. That must be very frustrating when you feel everything's going well. Every time you get on the pitch, you're finding the back of the net. Like, I think you had 6 games, or maybe I think it was 11 games with only one in the middle where you scored a goal. So it was like 11 out of 12 games you got a goal in the middle of last season. Like, when you're on fire and you're not seeing the minutes reflected in that, is Is that why you made the decision to leave, or was it frustration, or was it the new opportunity? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it was probably just a bit of both. Like, obviously, I thought I was doing really well, and people were telling me I was doing really well. So yeah, it's just a bit like I'm doing well, but I'm not getting my recognition that I deserve, that I thought, and that's not being like cocky or anything, but I thought I deserved a bit more. Like, obviously, it was great training with the Shells girls. Like, it's a great team to be involved in. Like, the players they have, are just amazing, like, in the league, and they've so much experience, and it was great to learn off them. But I think then when the opportunity came to move to Bohs, I said I'd go for it because I didn't really have anything to lose, so, and I haven't looked back since.
What is that sort of conversation like, when Bohs approach? Because I'm sure you might have got at Shells, trying to keep you. You may get more minutes this year. What's that conversation like for you, figuring out what is the best move for you?
Yeah, it's just, it's, you just have to think about yourself and put yourself first. And if you're being told one thing, like, I think you just need to think, is it going to happen? Like, if you look at the Shells squad, like, there's so many unbelievable forwards, and I think if I was only getting minutes here and there, I didn't think I was going to get much more. So I thought I would just make the move and try something different.
Who's part of that conversation when you're making that decision at 17, 18, 19 years of age? Like, are you talking to international coaches? Are you talking to players at either team? Is it family? Is it old coaches in other teams? Like, how do you make that decision? Because it's very rarely made just in isolation.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, I spoke to my family about it, and I spoke to one or two of the Shells girls, and they gave me their advice of what they think, and I was speaking to old coaches that I had, and they all thought it would have been a good opportunity for me. So
when Bohs first approached you, is Ken still in charge at that stage, or was it Albert?
You can't ask that, Aaron. That's not fair. You get her
in
trouble. The club's in trouble. No, I'm not letting you ask her that. That's not fair. But you rephrase it, maybe. Don't mention the timing.
Okay. Like, when you make that decision, like, do you take long to make that decision? Is it a quick conversation?
Yeah, I mean, initially when I think it was Ken at the time came to me at the break, and that's your question, answer that one. But I thought I was doing well for Shells at the time, and I think I was coming on and playing more. So then I thought in my head, like, maybe that's me, I'm gonna get more minutes, but it didn't come, and I think that's just football at the end of the day. It doesn't always happen. So then at the end of the season, I thought about it, and I decided to move then when I was in touch with Alban.
And was it you that went back to Alban when he got the job, or did he come after you again?
I think it was just a bit of both. I think Ken and stuff was on to me, and so he went on to Alban then.
What's it like, though? Because you've got a manager saying the likes of Ken, because Ken he managed at underage, and he's the sort of person that even now he's back in the men's game, but he's still always tweeting about when a women's player does well. What's it like sort of having a coach like that to give you advice?
Yeah, I think it's really good. Like, he really pushes for you and pushes people out there, and he does all the tweeting and the reposting, and he just gets your name flowing around, and it's really nice. Like, he gives you feedback and stuff. Like, I know if I wanted feedback off him, like, he'd give it to me and he'd tell me the truth. So I think it's good just to have, like, an experienced voice coming back with you. So
that goal, the first goal against Wexford, of course, went viral online almost immediately when people kind of saw the run and the finish. We're still talking about Steph Roach's strike from 12 years ago. How disappointing is it to be taken off the perch by Roisha this week with another viral goal? But they seem to be going in every single week in the league. I suppose I'm being a bit facetious with the kind of the week 15 seconds of fame or 15 minutes of fame, but the fact that you're in that conversation with two players of that caliber, one who's been to the World Cup, one who's nominated for the Puskas, you got to be delighted just to be part of that conversation at such an early age.
Yeah, I mean, I am delighted. Like, it really just took off, and I was a bit surprised, to be honest. But you know, obviously, like, everyone's going to be happy with that. But you know, it's done now, and hopefully I can score more. That's all I'm hoping to do.
One more on that one. How many times did you watch the goal?
Too many.
Half the views are her mum.
Yeah.
In terms of the season so far, struggled down in Sligo on the opening day, couldn't break them down. Only ended up getting a point out of that game, beaten by Galway at home, disappointing, I'd imagine. That win against Wexford got the season up and running, and then last week beaten by the league champions at Lone. Are you a little bit disappointed at this stage, given the performances have been pretty solid, to only have 4 points on the board?
I mean, yeah, like, obviously it's disappointing. No one goes into a game thinking they're gonna lose or wanting to lose, but you know, it's only 4 games in. Like, it's still a really long season, and you know, all we can do is watch back and see what we can do better for next time, and just keep building on it, because I know as a team, like, we have so much potential. So
A lot of young players in that squad. A lot of players you would have played with for a couple of years as well, playing with Bohs. What's it like though? Because although these are quite young, there would be a lot of expectation because it's Bohemians and people expect Bohemians to do well. What's that like as a group, especially considering there's a lot of young players in that squad?
yeah, I mean, like, obviously it's a big expectation. Bohs is a big club, and a lot of the younger girls, like, it might be their first proper season in a senior setup, so it might have come for a bit of a shock for them. But I think, like, everyone has stepped up to the plate and more, so it's just going really well for them, and hope they're only going to get better. So
Of course, in that squad, it's not just the experienced players. There are a few in there, the likes of Rachel Kelly, Lisa Murphy, and I suppose Katie Malone and others have been around the league a long time. But some really young, exciting talents. Ava Brennan, we've talked about in the show, Emma Cochran, if I pronounced that name right, and the likes of Sarah Duke-Power have been in there for the last maybe 12 months or so, knocking on the door. Emma's just come in this year along with yourself. It must be great buzz in the dressing room to have so many girls in and around your own age, a couple of years older, a couple of years younger, but in that like late teens, early 20s kind of time frame where you can all kind of socially get on as well as much as anything else.
yeah, like, it's good. So everyone gets along really well because we're all so close in age, and you know, it's just a good buzz. You know, everyone has a laugh before training and on the way to games and stuff. So I couldn't think of anything worse than being in a dull dressing room, and you know, it's just good fun every time, because that's what you want before training, is to lift the mood, and then you go out and work hard and come back in, have another laugh, and then go home.
Since you've sort of not necessarily broken onto the scene, but since you've sort of come and playing now over the last couple of years, what's it like though, especially when you talk about, you know, going into dressing rooms and going into training, considering you're seeing League of Ireland teams train more and more, and the intensity level going up and up and up? What's that been like for the players or the younger players when you see that sort of the way the league continues to go on off the field in terms of the more work that's required to play at the top level?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does take a lot of your time, but you know, everyone wants to be there, so everyone's willing to put in that hard work. And obviously we train like 3 times a week, and it's, you know, quite intense, obviously, because you're trying to prepare for a match. So what you do in training is, you know, what you do in a match, really. So
Yeah, I suppose you go into the international break this week with the 2 Ireland games against Greece. Will you get to the Ireland game yourself? Would most of the players in the league kind of wander over, like half watch the game and half maybe going, that could be me in a couple of years?
yeah, I'm not sure about the other girls, but I don't know, I might make it over. I have to see, but I think it's good to watch. Obviously, Avian Clancy's in the squad, so that's good for the league, and it just shows that people can, from the League of Ireland, be in the squad, and I think it'll be good for everyone to just push and raise the standards.
What do you make of it though when a manager comes in and says, I'm watching the league, I'm watching games, I'm discussing games, and sort of I see the talent that's there? What does that do for players?
I think that just only make you want to work harder, and you know, work on yourself, do things better, and you know, try and impress every week.
Yeah, you have Shells in 2 weeks. Looking for in a week and a half from when this goes out. Are you looking forward to getting back to Talcott Park and kind of?
It's actually in Dalymount.
Apologies, but looking forward to getting back and cracking show maybe Shells what they've missed out on, or have you felt that the 2 goals 2 weeks ago has kind of already done that?
Now I think it'll be good to play them. Obviously, I think I'm excited. So to just play against the girls, it'll be a bit weird, but yeah, I just want to try doing my best and feel like I have a point to prove.
When you say a point to prove, what goals do you set yourself in this sort of season then? Because it's your first season where you're playing week in, week out. What goals do you set yourself?
Obviously, I just want to play as much as I can, and I feel like I have been doing that. And obviously, competition is really hard in the team, and that's what you need, like it, to keep you on your toes and stuff. But obviously, I want to score more goals and assist more, and I just want to help the team win as much as I can.
It's the wrong answer. The answer just worldies only, Katie. That was Katie McCarn, it's been an absolute pleasure having you for the last 15 minutes or so for a chat about what has been a great start to the season for you, and I suppose maybe results otherwise for Bohemians, but plenty of games left and some really, really promising green shoots coming out of Dalymount on the women's side of the fence this year. Thanks very much for joining us, and wishing you the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Katie McCarn there. We're definitely going to hear more about her as the season progresses. She's been absolutely lethal in front of goal at under 17, under 19 level, and now we're beginning to see that bear fruit for her at senior level. And I think as the season progresses, we're going to see more and more really top quality strikes from her, I have no doubt. Aaron, you've seen her in the flesh in recent weeks. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I've always been impressed. I think right decision to leave Bohs, after leave Shells and go to Bohs. I think she need to play regular football, especially at her age. And we're starting to see more of the youngsters, Hannah Healy, other players, where they need to go and play regular football. And I think she's going to excel this year. She'll have a really good year. Started off very well. I'd just like to see Bohs maybe have a little bit more consistency. But listen, there's no doubt McCarn is going to continue to go from strength to strength.
But from the league's point of view, that's really positive, because now we're not seeing 7 or 8 youngsters on the bench at a club not getting game time. We're seeing them maybe 4 or 5 going to this club, 2 or 3 going to that club, another 2 or 3 going to a different club in Dublin in particular. These girls are now raising the bar of what's the level to be at to play in this league.
That's the way it has to be. And the league doesn't grow without that sort of thing happening. And like we even seen with the announcement that Cove Ramblers are looking to come into the league as well, that more and more teams are going to come. So we're going to have a player pool that's going to be ready for more and more teams to come into the league. And the only way you have that is by youngsters who are getting game time, getting the best of the youngsters getting game time. Because if they're not, then you're at a situation where clubs are going to be weaker. The gap between the top and the bottom is going to be bigger, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, Cove coming in is going to be interesting to see the impact that has on Cork. I know there's political issues between the junior teams and Cork City or Cork Women's back in the day. Over the last 15 years, they've never really been properly resolved, I think. So it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out when you throw another senior team in. If Cove, of course, are accepted into the league, that's not a done deal yet either. Let's before we get on to the League of Ireland fixtures in 2 weeks, we actually won't talk about that. Let's talk about the senior international games. We have 2 games, home and away against Greece this week. You get into either of the 2 games?
Going to boats, heading to Greece, and then heading to the Aviva at Tala Stadium, and both must win games. Must win.
Just to remind
us, I think there's three changes. There's 3 changes in the squad. Out goes Megan Connolly, Mel Phillis, and Izzy Atkinson, and in come great to see Avian Clancy coming in. I spoke to her at the weekend. Saoirse Noonan has been doing well. I think for Ireland, they need to win. There needs to be changes in the team. I think 6 points is a must out of these 2 Nations League games, especially considering the FAI have announced that they're going to Páirc Uí Chaoimh for the last game against Slovenia in June. Need to have a potential of finishing top of that group, otherwise the sell of Páirc Uí Chaoimh might be a bit of a hurdle.
How important is it for Marissa Shiva to have announced that she's at Sunderland for the next couple of games at least anyway? I'm not sure when her contract expires. I'd imagine it's the end of next season, but how important is it for her and Ireland for her to be in a club setup rather than being unattached as she has been for the last 3 or 4 months?
It's important, absolutely. Good to see that it is announced. You'd love to know, has she been training with them for a couple of weeks? What's the situation there? But the only concern is she hasn't played a game since that last Slovenia game, and like, will Carla Ward go with her? I think Carla Ward knows she needs to make some sort of adjustments, because the adjustments she tried to make in the second half against Slovenia didn't work, and I think there's a lot of eyes going to be on this game on Friday afternoon to see how it goes. Ireland will obviously be wearing the new kit for her. That was officially launched this week. It'll be interesting to see how that game goes. I think if they don't get a good performance against Greece, could set us up for a bit of trouble.
I know you're happy with the kit launch for a couple of reasons, but the main one being, the kit is lovely, actually, to be fair. It's the nicest Ireland kit I've seen in a while. But they've included Olivia O'Toole in the launch, and it's great to see the players of yesteryear, the players who kind of forged the path for these youngsters that are coming through the league to kind of to aim for over their lifetime. Olivia probably wasn't born, or sorry, some of these girls that we talk about, the likes of Madison McGrath, who's just 16, probably wasn't born when Olivia played her last game for Ireland. And yet she's probably going to be one of dozens of players who come through our academies that will benefit from the path that she forged. How important is it the FAI recognise those players that came through, the Libbies and Sharon Boyles and Emma Burns of this world?
Very important. And I think you need to build a culture of what Irish football is about, what the good that's happened in Irish football, the people who've paved the way. And for me, I never thought I'd see the day that we do see Olivia O'Toole sort of modelling the jersey to it now. I wouldn't mind. I actually spoke to her, I actually had a lengthy conversation with her on Saturday in Dalymount Park, and she never even dropped the hint that she was involved with the launch. And it's good to see that they are using these sort of players, because the easy option is just to post a picture of the jersey of the players that modelled the current players that modelled it like they did a while later. But I think it's good creativity from the likes of Danny Murray, who's in and around there doing videography stuff with the FAI, and obviously Emma Clinton, that they like to do a lot of video content. And I think this sort of thing, bring these sort of players in, get these sort of people involved, I think it's great, and everybody knows who Olivia O'Toole is. I just think, being our record female women's goal scorer, I think it needs to be shouted from the top. This is somebody we should cherish.
Yeah, of course. By naming two or three, I'm going to get absolutely hammered by not naming dozens more. But one name, actually, a former international who's actually involved in the league, we haven't actually talked about her yet, is on the bench at DLR Waves. I don't know if this got caught your radar, but Sonia Hughes, probably 50 plus caps or more, 60, 70 caps for Ireland back in the day. Great to have a player of her experience and quality back in the league as well. Probably retired maybe 12, 13 years. I think she might have played the first season of the League of Ireland, but a hugely experienced player both across the water in colleges football in America and with clubs here in Ireland.
Great to see, and this is where we need more of these ex-internationals coming into these clubs. Like we've seen little bits of it happen over the last couple of years. The FAI are obviously trying to encourage more and more females to take up coaching with the UEFA B female only coaching course, and I think these sort of things we need to encourage. Likewise, when you said earlier about commentary from Treaty United, these are small wins in terms of getting more female people involved, getting more of these involved in the game, and I think that's really important for me as we look to grow the women's game.
Yeah, I can't see now just straight away how many caps she has, but it looks to be somewhere in the region of, no, that's all out of date. I know she's like 50 plus, probably well more than 50, but a hugely experienced player. Great to see her in the league, and it's more and more of that happening. Just throwing your eye forward a week or 10 days to the next Women's Premier Division fixtures. I know we'll be back between now and then, but who's going to be happier with the way the league table looks at the moment? Let's just have a quick look at that league table as we go.
Damn next fixtures are juicy.
Let's look at the league table first. Then we'll just have a quick look at the fixtures just to whet the appetite. Athlone on their own on top with 10 points from 4 games. Very healthy goal difference. Only the 1 goal conceded for them as well. Shells, Galway and Treaty United in joint second effectively, although the goal difference a big negative for Treaty there versus the other two. Shamrock Rovers on 7, while Wexford and Waterford, the local southeast neighbours, on 6 points. Waterford's goal difference a bit of a concern, but they'll be happy to have 2 in the win column for them. Bohs on 4 with Peas and Cork City on 3 points. Of course, Peas, their game against Galway to be replayed, so potential for them to move up the table from that. No indication as to when that's going to happen just yet. Sligo, after their unfortunate showing on Saturday there on 1 point, while DLR Wave still to pick up a single point for this season ahead. Aaron, your thoughts on the table so far, and realistically what it means and what's different to what you expected?
I spoke to the Shells camp actually about this at the weekend, and the one thing that came out to me was they're 4 points better off than where they were last year. And teams are already looking at that sort of thing. Okay, we got a better start. It's too much. It's still early. Too much to call. Like you mentioned fixtures. Like, when you look at that next set of fixtures, you've got DLR Athlone, Galway Wexford, Cork Waterford, Treaty Sligo, Peamount Shamrock Rovers, and Bohs and Shelbourne. Like, there is some absolute massive titanium battles in that next one. And just a heads up for you, Bohs against Shells is actually 7:35 kickoff now, because
we haven't updated on our site yet, but yeah.
But like, you look at that, what around the fixtures. If you could nearly sit and watch all of them, you'd sit and watch all of them live at once. Like, what a day.
Well, you can with LOI TV. You can have them on.
You can't if you're at a game.
Well, if you bring your laptop with
The
you.
problem is I don't sit. The problem is certain grounds I don't sit in the press box. That's the other side of it. I will sit and just enjoy them.
There is that problem, but some absolutely cracking games. It has been for me, and we cover a lot of different sports on the platform here on FinalWhistle.ie, whether rugby, Gaelic games, as well as men's and women's across the board, and soccer as well. And for me, the Women's National League is right up there with the AIL as one of the best entertainment prospects in the country at the moment. I think we're seeing absolute humdingers of games week in, week out around every ground. There's 2 or 3 games.
Right, I'm gonna do something to you now.
I'll go on, get me in
Put
trouble.
put your head in the block. Who's going to score the next banger?
Oh, like, there's about 8 players that spring to mind. Like, do you know what I mean? I wouldn't put it past Katie. How good was she today on the chat with us? Real good insight into what it's like to be a young player in the league at the moment. She could pop up with a goal. Emily Corbett, I could come up with a goal. I'm probably going to have to go Isabella Flacchini, because she seems to be the most consistent and she's the most impressive for me this year so far. So I think
also
she's
nominated for player of the month as well.
Yeah. Who I didn't see those actually. Who got those on?
I'll give them to you now. It was herself, Kaylee Shine from Athlone, Emma Doherty, Emily Corbett, Rusha Littlejohn, Avian Clancy, and Isabella Faccini with a 6.
Well, Maeve Williams should absolutely have been in that list as well, and probably even Lauren Walsh. One of the
goalkeepers never tend to get the credit they deserve in there.
Well, 2 penalty saves and 2 wins. I think probably deserve to be in the mention for that as well. But again, you asked me player of the, like, Rusha Littlejohn didn't sign until 2 games in, so like, how you can be up for player of the. That's the viral goal, of course, that has her in that shake-up. But it just, for me, I don't really...
Well, she only missed the first game. She played the second game.
Okay, well, you know what I mean, though. It's very hard to put too much stake into those individual awards. But at the same time, it's great to have so many players, and that we could probably throw another half dozen names at that list and go, yeah, they probably should be in there as well. So, Katie McCarn wasn't in there, even though she scored.
No, we got Avian Clancy, Isabella Faccini, Rusha Littlejohn, Emily Corbett, Emma Doherty, and Kaylee Shine. Just one thing before we do finish, like I said it when we started speaking to Katie as well, like, the international manager watching. There was a lot of talk that Alex Kavanagh would have been in this Ireland squad if she had been fully fit. So it's great to see that things are being watched. Well, absolutely, and it's all good news for where the league is going. Aaron, as ever, that is it for episode 6 of this week of this season's podcast. We'll be back next week. We'll look back at the international games, both games home and away against Greece, and hopefully we'll be in a bit of just a quick reminder for people: the Greece game is a 3:00 Irish time kickoff, 5:00 local time, 3:00 Irish time. Yeah, so do not miss that. And then the game on next week is next Tuesday, I believe, in Tallaght Stadium. If you haven't got your tickets yet, do go get them. Well worth the watch. Do support the girls in green. They need it to make sure we get ourselves back in a good position for promotion in the Nations League, and also, of course, qualification. Aaron, thanks for joining me again. Thank you also to Katie McCarn, who made herself available for that chat earlier in the show. We'll be back with you next week. Talk to you then.